This is the We Got It podcast, and we are so thrilled to be covering Spartan sports with you guys for yet another week. It's a week that's had its ups and its downs. We will get into all of it on today's episode. But before we do that, we don't want you to forget that the We Got It podcast is an official podcast of Spartans Illustrated. We and Spartans Illustrated really hope to be kind of your one-stop shop when it comes to Spartan sports. They've got a beautiful new website and mobile app. If you haven't checked it out yet, please head on over there. You really can stay up to date on all things Spartan sports. There's some really great dedicated channels, almost kind of like a big group text, but one that you actually want to be a part of and you're not just annoyed because it's going off all of the time. That keeps you up to date on basketball, football, all of the other non-revenue generating sports. And we're just so thankful to be part of Spartan Nation and the Spartan community. I think it's a really special place that values student athletes and their contributions. And that's the whole reason that we're here. That's the whole reason that we are putting this podcast on. If you are one of the people who has come up to us or not come up to us and just thought this in your mind of oh, I can't listen to Abby and Jonah's podcast because I don't know anything about Spartan sports. I want to be yo, this podcast is for you. That's the whole point. We try not to keep things too heady around here. We try not to get too academic. There's times where, actually, maybe I take that back. We might make you do a little bit of homework in our Spartan seminar. But the whole point is to actually help you understand the sport better so that you can be part of the conversation of Spartan sports. Whew. Monologue done. Let's dive into it. Spartans fell on the road to the Cornhuskers. Do you want to know something amazing? Sydney Paget, one of the other amazing reporters from Spartans Illustrated, posted this today. The Cornhuskers have sold out their stadium for consecutive games since 1962. We were talking about what a tough environment it is to play there. I had no idea. Again, I mean, what else is there to do in Nebraska besides go to a football game? But dang, that is intimidating to walk into.
Definitely impressive. I know Kevin Knight, also of Spartans Illustrated, will point out that stat's a little bit conflated.
Okay.
That's not necessarily butts and seats, but just
Yeah.
tickets sold.
Yeah.
And they have a little bit of a history of fudging those numbers a little bit. But credit to Nebraska, like you said. It's a tough environment to play in for sure. And it was a tough environment on Saturday for the football team.
At least part of the downfall of the Spartans.
Yeah, so
Saturday.
The Spartans fell 38-27 to Nebraska in a really weird game.
Messy.
Yeah.
Chaotic. I think you used the word sloppy.
I did use the word sloppy. The Spartans came out on offense, elected to receive, which is kind of an odd thing to do. I think Jonathan Smith, just on the road, wanted to start off maybe getting some points on the board and
try to punch
get
in
some
the teeth
momentum.
a little bit.
But a 3-and-out, poor punt coverage allowed
pretty
short
much
field.
The opposite of punching in the teeth.
And then Nebraska, with not much resistance, scored a touchdown early. Michigan State gets the ball right back, has to punt, and then we have the blocked punt that was returned for a touchdown. And at that point, it was looking like this game was going to be a massacre.
Yeah.
A complete blowout.
Just a mess.
But I will say, in that moment, I thought it was going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a quick ending to the game. But the defense, honestly, showed out in a pretty big way, especially the end of the first quarter and throughout the second quarter. After that blocked punt for a touchdown, Nebraska didn't score again until the third quarter, allowing for Michigan State to get back into this game.
And Jonah, what was it that the defense did that was, maybe part of why they showed up so well at the end of that first half?
Yeah, the Spartans, I want to say, had 7 sacks in that game.
7 sacks. That's more than we've had all season.
Yeah, it was a breath of fresh air to see that, especially in some big moments. There was Aiden Child's interception that we had, kind of that gave Nebraska a really good field position. I think maybe at their own or our 30-yard
Yeah.
line, and we had back to back sacks to force them to punt and not get any points
Yeah, like
on that
knocked
drive.
them out of field goal position too.
No, yeah, they had to punt. They
Yes.
couldn't kick a field goal, like you said. And so that was a really encouraging sign. And really, throughout the night, the defense was getting stops when they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about last week how Dylan Raiola and this Nebraska offense relies heavily on the RPO,
Mm-hmm.
quick decisions, kind of keeping defenses on their toes. And they held Raiola to 5 receptions or 5 completions in the first half. And 2 of those came kind of last second drive that didn't really have any chance to score. So for the bulk of that first half, hold Nebraska to having 3 complete passes, which was very, very encouraging, especially with still missing guys like Nakai Martinez,
Mm-hmm.
starting cornerback, Ade Wiley. So they were a little short-handed, but I was overall impressed with the defensive performance that I think gave some light, I think, to this team about, hey, maybe not every game we're going to have to score 50
30,
points
40, 50
to
points,
win.
right.
Obviously, things got a little bit shaky in the second half. A couple broken plays where there's a couple missed tackles. So, like, wasn't like Nebraska was having these long drives. Just a
They
couple,
just
like,
have some explosive
some
plays. It felt
explosive.
like the repeat of the Youngstown State breakaway at one point, and just like how do we let this happen again? Like Jonathan Smith specifically talked about that on Youngstown State. Like, we can't allow this. Like, we have to fix that mistake. And those are those sorts of like messy things that on offense and defense, like the seams started to pull apart
Yeah, I
in
mean,
the second half.
I'll be honest. So this podcast has gotten off to a little bit more of a positive start
Yeah,
than I
yeah.
thought that this podcast would get
Don't
off
worry,
to.
we're gonna go there.
But yeah, from the offense, they, I would say they fought in this game. Like I said, it was 14-7 going into halftime.
And part of the reason it was 14-7 was because,
Milivojevic.
yep, I was gonna try to say his name. We know I'm not good at this.
Yeah, and that was
I'm just gonna default to you.
that drive was really kind of a crucial point
Yeah.
in this game for a couple of reasons. Because, yeah, first off, Michigan State was able to score with Aliheso Milivojevic coming in, and I probably said that name 2
Woohoo.
different times
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
differently, but finding Jack Valiant in the end zone
Yeah.
to give Michigan State momentum.
Like that combo too. Never thought I'd see that in a million years.
But what led to that was Aiden Childs kind of getting a big hit that he was taken out of the game into the medical tent,
Scary
which
stuff.
forced Alessio to come in the game. And really after that moment, Childs did come in, but did not ever look like himself.
No.
It was this typical kind of overthrows on a lot of plays, but looked kind of rushed and panicked. And that was largely because his offensive line was also not giving him time to throw. He had guys in the backfield, and I think he was just so jittery, so nervous. And I think that hit kind of got to him mentally a lot. And maybe you can argue maybe if he was actually hurt or concussed, but like whatever it was, he wasn't the same quarterback that we are kind of used to seeing.
Which
this
is
year.
like confusing because he had moments where he was though still. Like he had some runs with his feet where he's making great decisions and he's like trucking down the field. But yeah, it felt like it really shook up his arm.
Yeah, and he really put the team on his back in that third quarter, like you said, with his feet.
Yes.
Kind of willing this team not only to tie it, but to take the lead with 8 minutes left in the third quarter. And it seemed like Michigan State had all the momentum. The defense was playing excellent. The offense was finding the groove. Aiden Childs was making things happen. But then again, things just went off the rails. Again, you had a punt from Michigan State that was, I think, a 60-yard return from Nebraska, gave them a short field. Another interception by Childs, giving them a field goal. So then you went quickly from up 21-14 to down 24-21, and that's kind of when the wheels
Yeah.
fell off. And like I said, Nebraska had that broken play for a touchdown, and Michigan State was kind of out of it at that point.
Yeah.
Um,
There's just like no recovering with that little time
yeah,
left.
and if I'm honest too, like as much as we've dogged on Joe Rossi this year, I think it's kind of Brian Lindgren's turn to kind of get a little bit of the brunt of that this
Yeah.
week. Like, there's so many times in that game, I just wanted to say, like, we don't either have to throw a Hail Mary
Right.
or a pass behind the line of scrimmage. Like,
Right.
we have good wide receivers. Throw a 5-yard pass.
We've got great personnel on our offense in general. Like, let's maximize it. Let's not just keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And this is what's just, I don't know if I'm more frustrated by it or like, I think I'm frustrated that I'm hopeful because I feel like finally this week it was like, okay, so we have the pieces. Like, the defense can do it.
Mm-hmm.
The offense can do it. Special teams maybe can do it.
Yeah, and that was
But like, that's what's so frustrating. I think more than anything, like, you know, last week or previous episodes we've talked about, like, man, I just don't even know if I have a lot of hope because I don't know if our defense can get there. And granted, like, this is just what's so weird about college football. It's so hard to know what's going on because, I mean, like, this weekend was crazy. You've got UCLA like whooping up on Penn State. You've got Indiana who blew out Illinois, but then Illinois is like running up points. It's just so confusing. So like, who knows how our defense actually stacks up? It's one game against the Cornhuskers, but at least gives you like that spark and that light that like the defense could be there. And I think we've been feeling sad for the offense the last couple of weeks of like, man, we're actually getting stuff going. Like, Childs has gone so long without actually like having these big errors. You know, our wide receivers seem to really be clicking with one another. We're getting things going in the run game from multiple different personnel. We've got some tight ends that are stepping up in huge ways. Like Jack Belling seems like he's really matured in a lot of ways. Masunis continues to be just a very solid contributor. And it felt like, man, if we can just get the defense on board, this team could do something. But I don't think that's going to happen. And then this week, it was like, you just saw these little glimmers of like, oh, maybe the defense can do it. Oh, no, what's happening to the offense? It's breaking down. And like, oh, Ryan Eckley, incredible. Oh my gosh, he just got smacked in the gut because our special teams can't do anything. Like, this is where it feels very like, yes, there's going to be errors, but like, that to me is on coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
Because your personnel is your personnel. And you're like not, I don't know if you're overcorrecting, you're undercorrecting. And I know it's just one game. However, we're now 3-2.
Yeah.
And if you don't want the rest of the season to continue the way that it has the last couple of weeks, like, what do you do at this point? And this conversation, I'm sorry, feels very chaotic, but I think it does because the game on Saturday was so chaotic and so messy. It was like you couldn't really pick out themes from anything because 1 minute to 5 minutes later, you're having completely different problems popping up.
For sure. I think like Michigan State dominated this game for legitimately 2 quarters.
Yeah.
Where they scored 21 unanswered. Both sides of the ball were clicking. Those special team errors kind of stopped handing Nebraska points. And then, like you said, yeah, like you have these glimmers and then just like these major just like lapses where you allow that block punt for a touchdown or you allow that screen pass late in the third quarter for Nebraska to you have 3 or 4 missed tackles. Next thing you know, they're in the end zone. And I think that's what's so frustrating about this game is because really like all 3 facets of this team at times looked really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that first,
yeah, we just couldn't get them all going at the same time.
That first punt from Michigan State, that before the blocked punt,
yeah,
was a 70-yard bomb from Eckley that was called back because of a delay of game. And then he has kind of a rough punt that gives Nebraska good field position. And like those little errors, like, and those two back-to-back like punt attempts, you see the differences, like
Yeah.
what the special teams can be versus what
Mm-hmm.
it showed its face to be a lot on Saturday. And the same thing with the offense, the same thing with the defense. And I
Mm-hmm.
think obviously it's still just year 2 of Jonathan Smith. I know there's a lot of fans that have concerns and frustrations, and I think some of those are warranted. And I think what's so frustrating is like there is so many glimmers on
Mm-hmm.
all 3 areas of this team, but they just haven't been able to put them all together
Yeah.
in a game. And especially in the Big Ten on the road, you're not going to win if all 3 of those areas aren't all in a groove,
Yes.
executing at a high level.
Yes. And not even just like executing at a high level, just like not a mess.
Yes.
Like, can we just have like some semblance of like okay? Because if you have 2 of them that are doing really well and defense can just like hold, or defense play very like just something, but it was just so much mess. And I feel like as a player mentally, that's got to be so challenging to come back from in an in-game scenario. Like I'm not a college athlete, and so I can't imagine the kind of pressure that these kids are carrying on their back. But that's got to be mentally just so challenging. And so, I do have a lot of grace for Aiden Childs, especially, yeah, like you said, taking that big hit in the first half. It's just so hard to know, mentally, physically where he's at in the remainder of that game. But it's not just Aiden Childs, right? Like, it's not just this one piece. And again, like, maybe we don't need to flee like the house is on fire yet. But I'm smelling smoke, and, it's getting a little concerning.
And yeah, I think that brings up a good point. Like, there's definitely smoke. You saw the frustration on the team. You saw late in the fourth quarter with Nick Marsh, Aiden Childs kind of going after each other. And I think that's not a bad thing. I think it's good that these guys care a lot and they want to be.
Goodness, I wish we'd see a little bit more passion on the field in general.
But I think that frustration that might be at a healthy level right now could
easily
turn
boil
into
over. Yeah.
a unhealthy level of frustration where kind of maybe the team's turning on each other. And we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But this is a big game on Saturday against UCLA.
And that's where I'm saying, like, I wish that we were seeing a little bit more passion. And this comes back to our preseason, preview from last year, but yes, this year, of like, who is Jonathan Smith? And I do get concerned sometimes that if you're not willing to show that kind of level of like, this is bothering me, this is physically like hurting that we are performing poorly, and your players don't see that, I just feel like that frustration is going to get taken out somewhere. Like, if you're constantly coming at it with this really diplomatic approach, I can see how as a player I'd be like, get fed up with us. Like, something's not working. You're the coach. And I'm not saying Jonathan Smith has to be that person. Maybe there's other coaches on the team who are providing that. But man, it does feel like, could you just show like an ounce of passion, or like an ounce of caring a little bit, like in the game? I don't know. Maybe that's just not his brand or whatever. But like, when I think about this kind of like old school work harder coaching mentality, like, which Jonathan Smith has, I think about some good grit behind that. Like, you think about the things that D'Antonio said, over the years. You look at Tom Izzo, like, he loves his players. He has a very like, keep your head down, shut out the outside noise. But that man gets fired up. Like, is that what this team needs?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And I think, contrasting it with D'Antonio is good, because I think there are some similarities with both Smith and D'Antonio at some levels, where like D'Antonio, as much as you knew he had that grit, he didn't show a ton of emotion all the time. He was pretty stoic, but he was very firm. I think one thing about D'Antonio...
Do you know what's funny, though, is like, I'm thinking about the shows of emotion that D'Antonio would have, and he'd have like those really emphatic like fist pumps, or he'd be like gritting his teeth on the sideline. Like, he was still very contained, but you could see it.
Right.
Jonathan Smith is just like watching somebody, just like maybe at their, grandnephew's swim meet, like, oh yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I think that's where kind of my
I'm
frustration
sorry.
is
Just like, come on, give us something.
and I know Nick Saban says this a lot. A lot of his former coaches do is if you want to be successful in college football, you have to hate losing more than you love winning.
Yeah.
And when you'd have a game like this, or a tough loss, or an unacceptable loss like this in the Antonio era, you could tell how
Yes.
much D'Antonio hated losing.
Yes. You
And
could almost like feel the stones in his stomach of just like the
yes,
grinding, like awful feeling.
and his team exemplified that same demeanor,
Mm-hmm.
and they showed it on the field with their ferocity, their effort. And when you have these mental errors, when guys aren't prepared, when the coaching staff isn't getting them to be prepared,
Mm-hmm.
when you have these just silly, kind of sloppy plays that are just happening over and over again, like it seems like they're playing, I don't know, like it just doesn't seem like that. And maybe this is not fair, but that hatred of losing
Yeah.
just doesn't seem to be there at the same level that it
Yeah.
needs to be, especially at a team like this that isn't going to be the most talented on the field.
Yeah.
I think Nebraska is probably a more talented team, yet still Michigan State probably should have won this game if it wasn't for all their mental mistakes that they
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see more from Jonathan Smith, this staff, this team is we're tired of this.
Yes.
I know for sure the Michigan State fans are
Yes.
tired of this
That's
because they've been
yep.
dealing with this really since outside of the Kenneth Walker year,
Yeah.
since 2016.
Yeah.
This just mediocrity, this sloppy football, this frustrating football, like giving games away in this manner. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to see from this team that they feel that same weight, that same pressure, even though they maybe haven't been here for the last 9 years that the fan base has been
Right.
experiencing this, because the schedule doesn't get any easier. Even this next week against UCLA, guess what? They just beat number 5 Penn State at home.
College football is wild. Wild. Like looking when we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, and I was just like, you know what? I think I'm going to enjoy football season a heck of a lot more if I just accept that, like, these are the 3 wins that we're going to get. And if we get any more, that's a positive. And I had some people that I talked to after the podcast were like, I said that in conversation. They were like, no, we're going to have more than 3 wins. Look at UCLA. Yeah, look at UCLA. Like, I'm still kind of sitting here going, we get another win. I'm not going to take it as a positive. I don't even know if I'm going to be happy about it if we only get one more win. But, like, I'm not expecting any more wins.
Yeah, I don't
I know I'm
blame.
negative Nancy over here. I'm, as my brother-in-law would say, one of the most nihilistic Spartan fans in the world.
I think my perspective is I don't think they're not going to win anymore, but I think I look at the schedule and there's not a game where I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely a win. There's definitely a lot of winnable games left on this schedule, but there's not one that now that I can point to that says, oh yeah, that's chalk that up as a win, because we've seen UCLA beat Penn State last week, and I think
the West Coast factor is just
let's see though.
mind-boggling.
Now it kind of comes to Michigan State's favor. UCLA has a noon kickoff on the East time zone. Coming off a really emotional win, can they kind of carry that over? There'll be a little bit of a letdown game. It's homecoming for Michigan State, so expect a good crowd. Like, this is a big, big game for Jonathan Smith because this is a game they should win. This is a game they're favored in. And I know I see your face that you don't necessarily believe that, but
we should win.
This is a game they should win, and they have to win. Because if you're right, if they lose this game, then it has become, where does that next win come from?
And how do you get the win back in your sales? I mean, truly, like, now I'm on this whole like mind track of like, and maybe this is just like the Detroit sports fans in us, right? Like the night we're recording this, the Tigers just came back, being down 2-1 in the series to tie it up 2-2 and get Scooball back on the mound on Friday. But like maybe this is just like this, like you need the grit, right? Like maybe it is like that Detroit just like grit, like the gritty Tigers, the Lions grit. Like I just want to see that from this team. And I think, I don't know, I'm not throwing in the towel this season, but like it just feels hard to like, yeah, if we can't show up with grit against UCLA at home on homecoming day this week, like how do you show up the next game with another loss, being even record? That's where I just get hesitant. So yeah, I think honestly, like coming out of this week, that's where I'm saying, like, I almost feel frustrated that I'm hopeful. Like, we know we can have the pieces, maybe not for a full 60 minutes of a game, but I think we could have the pieces enough to actually put some good stuff together this season.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to, play the best football for 60 minutes. You just need to play it for more minutes than the other team and do more in those minutes. But I'm also frustrated. I feel that way because it's just like getting my hopes back up again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to break this upcoming game down for you all. I know we all know what needs to happen. Michigan State needs to execute, be disciplined, and get this win. UCLA is still, despite the win against Penn State, a 1-4 football team with a putrid defense. In their one win this year, they allowed 37 points.
Yeah, that's telling.
Like Michigan State has to win this game. They need to win this game. And I think there's going to be some conversations. I don't know exactly.
I'm intrigued
about what, but there's going to be some clear feelings from a lot of people. I think
there are some things
included
that are going to happen in the future if other things. Sorry, I'm being a booger.
I think if they lose this game, there's going to be a lot of people that have.
Yeah.
If not every fan is frustrated and angry, every fan's going to be upset and angry if they don't win this game on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think, I think the Spartans have a very loyal fan base, but in a world of college sports that's moving more and more now towards revenue funding for sports and NIL deals, like it's pretty hard to get the average Joe to want to invest in your program if you're losing to UCLA at home. Like I don't know. Like I'm just curious to see if there's going to be that kind of fallout of those sorts of things.
Yeah, and I know I'm not saying I'm not there yet. I do have some doubts and concerns, but for those of you who maybe think that Jonathan Smith's on the hot seat, I'd hold your horses a little bit. His contract buyout, if Michigan State were to fire him this year, is $37 million.
Yeah.
This donor base is not going to want to fork up that money for his buyout and then fork up money again for a head coach that you think would be better than him. So,
and frankly, like, do we really want another new head coach? Like, I don't think so. Like, we chose Jonathan Smith for a reason, and I have to trust that the powers that be knew what they were doing, and that's where I think it's just hard as a fan because it's just we don't really see it. And I think a lot of the other like big successful names that we're seeing in sports right now present very differently than Jonathan Smith. I mean, I don't think you could get more different than Dan Campbell and Jonathan Smith. Not to compare like apples and oranges with an NFL and a college football coach, but just like that sort of personality. Even like AJ Hinch, like he's just kind of a dynamo when it comes to baseball managers. Just so many, big coaches that you see being really successful right now. They're showing more emotion than Jonathan is.
Yeah. Well.
All right, I'm beating a dead horse.
There was a lot of thoughts in that segment. Keys to the game on Saturday for UCLA are just win. Frankly, just win. And keep Aiden Childs alive.
It's that simple.
The two goals of Saturday.
Yeah.
But let's get into our halftime show right now.
Take it away, Jonah.
Even though the football team didn't win, there were some other teams across campus that did win. The women's volleyball team, off of their hot start, had a little trip to Illinois this week, and they faced Northwestern on the road and won that game in 4 sets. And then they traveled down to Champaign and lost a tough match in 5 sets to the Illini. But the women have still had a very good start to this season.
Phenomenal.
The women's soccer team also continues to be undefeated in conference play, as they had a draw with number 21 Ohio State 1-1 last week, and they actually play Michigan on Thursday of this week in Ann Arbor. So a big one for the women's soccer team. Men's soccer team also only had 1 game this week. They fell at home to Penn State 1-2. And then men's hockey, they're back.
Crazy.
They had a little exhibition last Friday before MSU Madness, and they beat University of Windsor 4-0. And they open up their regular season Thursday night as well.
Crazy.
At Munn against New Hampshire. So I'm excited for MSU hockey to be coming back, the back-to-back Big Ten champions and Big Ten tournament champions. Hopefully they can kind of finally push through this year and
make a little deeper run into the NCAA tournament.
The Frozen Four. But busy week in Spartan sports.
That's crazy. Hockey's already kicking off.
Yeah.
And not just hockey. You and I got to travel to East Lansing this weekend, kind of on a whim, and head over to MSU Madness, which... You guys are so sick of me saying this. I freaking love Michigan State basketball. And as we were talking in the football segment, I was thinking about this. Like, I think part of why football, I love it. Don't get me wrong. But it's just so, like, backstabbing, like, heart-wrenching. Like, one play, one mistake, and you're trashed. Game's over, right? Basketball, not really like that. Like, there's just so much more give and take and finesse, and I just love it. Anyway,
and a lot more Tom Izzo.
And a lot more Tom Izzo. Gosh, he's like the best part of MSU Madness. If you've never been before, it's like this really cool free event they put on where it's like basically the first official like kind of public practice, right, of the season. So they make it super fun. You know, the whole Izzone's there. All those college students are fighting for seats. They go and do like this huge camp out afterwards to be able to kind of like earn the right to be in the Izzone. It's a very competitive. It's part of why Michigan State's home crowd is one of the best in the country. People would say top 5. I say number 1 for sure. But Tom Izzo always comes out in a really fun way, and he got introduced on screen by Dan Campbell, which was just super fun, and, you know, burst out of this huge drum while the Honolulu Blue and the MSU drum line were playing. Just like super fun event. They hype the players all up. You know, they have them come out in smoke and LED lights and dancing, and and then you get to watch a dunk contest. Cohen Carr once again. How
does he do it? How does he do it?
I'm so ready to have Cohen Carr back in my life. But was also like pretty surprised by some standout performances, not only in the dunk contest, but just like in the scrimmage. Granted, like the guys are going pretty easy. Yeah. Nobody's playing like that hard a defense. We're not trying to get hurt out here. But yeah, what a fun night. I'm pretty excited about Cam Ward.
Yeah.
And transfer Trey Fort. And I think I need to give you credit for this. Who have people been sleeping on?
I think they've been sleeping on Divine Ukachukwu.
Yeah.
Ukachukwu.
We're going to get it.
We're going to get there.
We're going to get it.
I promise.
That's not who I was thought you were going to say. But yes, I mean, his ball handling skills looked very, very impressive.
He's got some really good handles, it seems like.
And like pretty thrilled to be able to have him, you know, most likely as like a backup point guard to Fears. Because, gosh, I mean, strength in numbers last year, right? Like, I think the more personnel, like top quality personnel we can throw at teams, who knows what this team's going to shape up compared to last year. But who I'm very excited about is Jesse McCullough.
Yeah.
And I think you talked about that maybe in an earlier episode, like wrapping up summer, just kind of like checking in where other sports were at, of just like, I think the coaches are pretty excited about him.
Yeah.
And he's someone that we really didn't see much of anything from last season, but that kid's reach, even just like the way he locks in on defense.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
He's a big body, a long body, a good rim protector. I think probably going to be playing a little bit of that like Zamon Zapawa kind of role, but like a little lighter on his feet, a little
I was
more
gonna say a
athletic,
little more athleticism, a
a little
little
maybe
more
more
like
like a hustle and just like
finesse. Yeah.
um, yeah. So I'm excited to see him play. Obviously, after redshirting last year, just having kind of a whole year to kind of develop and
Yeah.
get comfortable. At the college level, like he's not going to be a normal freshman, I don't think, totally this year.
Yeah.
Like I think he's going to have a big role. Obviously, you got Carson Cooper and Jackson Kohler coming back, but he's going to be a big piece off the bench just to have that big man, because depth at the 5 last year just wasn't super great.
Yeah.
So I hopefully that position's at a higher level this year with a senior Carson Cooper and then now Jesse McCullough.
Yeah. And just looking at Jackson Kohler's face, I'm like, okay, all right. I think Jackson Kohler's finally like a man.
Yeah, he's definitely
season.
grown up. Like he didn't come out in the faux hawk this year.
Bless his soul. Like he just every time I looked at him, I was like, I think I can see 5-year-old Jackson when I look at you. I looked at him this year. I was like, oh, okay. Like you're here, and you're taking up space, and you're ready to roll. I didn't know if I could ever say that about you.
Yeah, I think his best performance of the year was in the Elite Eight last year against Auburn, where he had that double-double, and I think you're going to be hearing the words Jackson Kohler and double-double probably a lot more this upcoming year. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. Definitely a lot of question marks, and we'll dive more into that as we preview the basketball season. Relatively soon, because season's only
one last
4
thing
weeks away.
That maybe you don't want me to say. But this spring, we were told, with Caleb Glenn, that he was like most likely going to be out for the season. And I don't know anything, but just using my bare eyes at MSU Madness on Friday night, like, I didn't see a brace. I didn't see a boot. He seemed to be in like normal sweats and like walking around. Who knows?
Yeah.
I have no idea. But like,
and I think that's a good,
maybe.
Even if he doesn't come back to play, I know Izzo said a couple weeks ago that he's seen Caleb Glenn recover more than he thought was humanly possible, or faster.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like he's going to be playing this year, but if he could get back to practicing in December, January, even February, just to have those reps to get ready for next year, I think it's going to come a long way, because we've seen it with transfers, especially from kind of those smaller schools. It takes them a while to get up to speed to Big Ten basketball.
Yes.
And then that kind of year too, I think Joey Hauser.
And just like Tom Izzo's style of play. He's not a plug and play kind of coach. He's you work for it, you earn it, you fit the team.
But you see a lot better performances kind of year 2 out of these transfers. So I think if he's even able to practice some this year, I think that will bode well for the Spartans next year, especially because I think they're going to have a really, really good freshman class coming in next year. Maybe on commit watch for potential 5-star center.
There was some chants ringing out in the stadium Friday night. It was a good
nothing
time.
Seems to be set in stone yet, but it seems to be trending in a good direction for Michigan State.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like we talked about Tom being in it for the long haul, and like he's going hard for that 2026 class. And it'll be interesting to see how Caleb Glenn fits into that. One last thing that I'm going to say, and then I will shut up about Spartan basketball. I just love it so much. Jeremy Fears. It was hard, again, like MSU Madness, it's very fun. It's very goofy. Like, we're not taking too many, things away from it. However, as we know, last year, like, was only the 1-year anniversary of the shooting that he, was injured in. And I think we talked about that a lot, of just like seeing his performance change around that time. And like, can you imagine suffering that large of an injury and then just like bouncing back and playing basketball the next year? Like, looking back now, it's like, oh my gosh, we should be so grateful for how much Jeremy gave us
Mm-hmm.
last year. And Tom has just continued to sing his praises in the off season. He has like continued to develop. Didn't Tom say he's added 5 inches to his vertical?
Yeah, who knows
Supposedly.
how
I
accurate that
mean,
seems.
yeah,
Wild, but even
maybe
if it's
Tom's
2
just
inches,
having a little fun. But
I'll
like
take it.
that's huge, right? Like I think just even like Jeremy having a whole nother year to heal and grow and strengthen, like I don't know. I'm excited about this team. You said
Yeah.
something along the lines of, I don't think I've ever seen you this optimistic about Spartan basketball so early in the year. So we'll see if that continues.
Yeah, I mean, I think one miracle is, and knock on wood, if you're listening, please say a prayer.
Yeah.
Um, we haven't
That was a
seen
nice little Taylor
yet
Swift Life of a
the
Showgirl reference there, Jonah.
I don't know what you're talking about. Um, we haven't seen the patented off-season player in the walking boot yet, which I feel like every year it's, oh, so and so was seen in a walking boot. So let's hope that continues. Let's just have a healthy
Yeah.
off season, healthy ramp up to this season, and just
Yes.
hit the ground running because we're gonna need to. Because have you seen the schedule? It's brutal, and yeah. But I'm excited. Some fun games heading to Breslin Center, heading this fall, this winter. So lock in.
Yeah. All right. We're about to get educated in Spartan Seminar. Myself, probably most of all, because I have no idea what we're learning today. For those of you who maybe forgot or haven't tuned in before, we always like to spend a little bit of our podcast episodes digging into some aspect of sports, whether it's a position, a penalty, a call, a coaching style, whatever it is, and just kind of break it down, try to make it a little less unknowable so that, yeah, every Spartan fan can participate, kind of know what's going on. In our football season, we've really been kind of taking things by position and talking about terminology or certain types of plays or certain types of decisions that you're going to see that personnel on the field participate in. So, for example, we talked a lot about the quarterback, the different choices that they can make, the run pass options, the play actions, the positioning, whether they're under center or whether they're in that shotgun position. We talked about with wide receivers, the different kind of routes that they run, the difference between a number 1, 2, and 3 receiver and how that's different from an XYZ receiver. So if you don't know those terms that I just threw out there, go ahead and take a listen back to our previous episodes. We typically position our Spartan Seminar segment probably about 10 or 15 minutes from the end. If you just want to kind of get in the know about some more of those things. So if I'm not mistaken, Jonah, on the schedule for tonight should be the tight end position. And this is something that I kind of just had like in, how like you learn things, maybe this is just the ADHD person in me, but you learn things and you like take them and you put them in buckets to kind of try to help organize things. When I think about tight ends, I always kind of thought of them as more of like a blend between a wide receiver and a running back. Because they kind of like do a lot of different things on offense and like sometimes not really. I don't know why I thought this. Like they kind of run the ball, but then they also catch. But really, I'm starting to learn they're more of a blend between like a wide receiver and an offensive lineman. Right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great
Like,
way.
their primary things are receiving and blocking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect kind of encapsulation of what a tight end does, especially in a Jonathan Smith offense. I think arguably tight end is the most important position in Jonathan Smith's offense, and they really try to do a lot with their tight ends to kind of gauge the defense, to kind of see what they're forming up in, to trick the defense, into thinking maybe one thing's happening when another thing's. I mean, some of the biggest plays that we see from Michigan State offense is kind of that play action bootleg. So bootleg kind of meaning they fake the handoff to running back. Instead of standing in the pocket, they kind of Childs will run outside the pocket towards one of the sidelines and finding a tight end wide open down the field. And the reason that you're able to scheme that
Sorry. The screensaver just went on for some
Oh,
reason. Sorry.
and the reason you're able to scheme that wide open tight end is kind of with what they're doing on every play, but then also what they're doing before the play even happens, because when you have this pro style offense, meaning you're going to focus on the run to kind of open up the passing game, running in between the tackles, play action is going to be a huge part of your game where you have sometimes your tight ends are blocking and sometimes they're going to be going on routes and you don't want the defense to know what they're going to be doing before they snap the ball.
So, would it be safe to say then that when tight ends are lining up on that line of scrimmage, they're going to have like a consistent set position, whether they're about to go run a route or they're going to block?
No, I think that's the thing is you're not going to be able to tell pre-snap
Right.
what they're going to be doing.
Interesting.
Because sometimes, like, when we talked about this in the past, especially I think last year in the preview, talking about 11 personnel versus 12-man personnel. 11-man personnel being one tight end on the field, where 12-man personnel is going to be two tight ends on the field. And sometimes in that 12,
It's not that you're actually adding a 12th person.
Right.
It's that you're swapping out one of your other offensive players for a tight end, which, if you think about it, they are kind of doing two people's role. Like, they are available to be a receiver and they're also there as an offensive lineman.
Right. And sometimes too, you'll see on that 12-man personnel, you'll have those tight ends are both on the same side of the field. So you have one lined up right next to that tackle, and then the next tight end will be kind of just a little bit behind them off the line of scrimmage. And those varied looks, hopefully, are opening things up on all levels of the field because it could give an extra blocker in the run game, or it could on some of those play action plays, the bootlegs that they like to do with Aiden Childs. It could hopefully maybe open up those tight ends if, hey, they see two tight ends are in the game and they kind of guess run. A lot of times that tight end can kind of leak out and be wide open down the field. But that only works when those tight ends are consistently blocking on run plays and kind of forcing the defense to kind of fall asleep on them as a threat down the field. And sometimes too, like, especially those tight ends that are on the line of scrimmage, even on a play where they're going to go run a route, they might engage with that offensive or defensive lineman or linebacker first, acting like they're going to block, and then kind of slip
roll
around.
away.
And then hopefully there's nobody at that second level who's ready to pick them up. A lot of things too, I think it's important to note with tight ends, especially that Michigan State does, is a lot of pre-snap motion.
Right.
So maybe going from one side of the field to the next, maybe going from the line of scrimmage to behind the line of scrimmage to kind of see how the defense adjusts and moves. And that gives Aiden Childs information on what he's going to do with that play. Because we know we have a lot of those RPO style of plays that Michigan State runs or read options. And that pre-snap movement by the tight ends that Michigan State likes to do is inform Aiden Childs on, okay, like, they seem to be in a man defense, and I like this matchup, so I'm going to hand it off to Mekhi Frazier. Or actually, they're in man coverage. I know that Jack Belling is going to be bigger and stronger than this linebacker on him. So
he's got better odds,
for him. So it's a really important role, especially in this offense. And Michigan State is at its best when its tight ends are heavily involved. I think you'll see on Saturday against Nebraska, like when Michigan State was having successful drives, their tight ends were involved. When they weren't having successful drives, their tight ends weren't really involved. So it's a really important aspect of not just Michigan State, but especially Michigan State's offense.
Yeah. And when you say involved, do you mean like physically handling the ball on the play or more just even like their blocking aspect?
I mean, I would say getting involved with like getting catches because when they're getting catches, it means kind of all the other little things that they're doing to kind of
or opening up that option,
deceive the defense or opening up those things for the offense in order to get them open. Because I feel like a lot of the times you see these passes to the tight ends Michigan State's offense, it's because they're wide open. Now obviously there's some times where they're fitting throws into tight windows, but when the tight ends are involved in catching passes, it means that all the other little things are working for the offense. So they're blocking, they're fake blocking, or their pre-snap motion to open up those things to deceive
Right.
the defense. So as they might be overlooked a lot because they might not have the flashy plays that Childs or Marsh have, might not have the big runs. Maybe they're only having 6-yard receptions or 10-yard receptions, but they're a very vital piece, especially to this Michigan State offense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot of good terminology that you covered in there, even just, talking about like pro offense and those sorts of things. Like, I think we hear those terms get thrown around a lot, but it's helpful to actually think of what are the pieces that make that up, and kind of just like the trends that we're seeing in college football now too, as you just have, I think, just like a heightened, like level of play across the board. Like, there's just so many more resources, and I think kids that are playing at a high level a lot sooner than they were maybe 10, 15, 30 years ago. So I think it's just interesting too to even just see how the game continues to evolve. So your homework for this week, maybe not during the Spartan game, because if you're anything like me, you're just way too emotionally invested. But maybe if you're just like watching some other college football games, NFL games this weekend, maybe just pick a couple tight ends to, follow for a couple plays visually. Watch, are they making any pre-snap motion? Where are they lining up on the line of scrimmage? Are they running? Can you tell if they're running an 11-man or a 12-man personnel? What sort of circumstances lead up to them getting receptions. I think those things will help you kind of really like process and understand how the tight end role fits in. And then maybe you can actually start picking up and seeing it in MSU's offense as well. And I'm saying this for you, but quite frankly, I need to do a lot of homework in this area. So you guys are not alone. We love hearing from you. So if you have something that you would love covered on a future Spartan seminar, if you have feedback like your homework sucks, or like, hey, I want an extra credit assignment, reach out to us. You can always contact us at the We Got It podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on any of our social media channels. We try to be pretty good about checking those. Jonah probably better than me. But we're just so grateful that you guys are still tuning into our little podcast, still caring about Spartan sports, even when we're not hitting you with a lot of victory episodes. But there's just so many good things in the Spartan community. So much good coming with Spartan basketball. And yeah, we just love being Spartan fans. Thanks, Jonah. Go green.
Go white.
Go state.